The NBA suspension came at the worst possible time for some teams, but at the perfect time for others. I mean, yeah, you could say everyone can use this time to get healthy, but it could change the literal fate of the playoffs for some teams. In this video, we'll break down who's been helped the most and who's been hurt the most by the NBA suspension. Hey guys, it's Casey, host of the Aim Hoops YouTube channel, aka not the guy from Vanilla Ice, according to Fernando. Hit subscribe and hit notification bells, it really helps out the channel. Also, go check out the Aim Hoops podcast, always dropping a fresh pod every Friday morning. Let's start with who the shutdown will help. Number one has got to be the Brooklyn Nets. Some people think KD should not use this as a chance to come back for the postseason.
Because I think that it would be foolhardy for Kevin Durant to even think about playing. When I come back, I still want to ease my way into it, even though I can average 25 in my sleep.
That is a ridiculous take. Kevin Durant should absolutely come back, especially if a 3 to 4 week training camp actually happens. The NBA could have that kind of ramp up before the playoffs start to help every player. I could see the argument of not pushing yourself into playoff basketball out of an Achilles injury. We've seen where that can lead, but this is a unique situation. Every player is under a mini offseason right now. If KD was planning on returning to the court after an offseason, here's your chance. Kevin Durant can and should play for the Nets this postseason. Yeah, playoff basketball is more urgent, but there's no back-to-backs like in the regular season. Durant put his name in for the USA Basketball Olympic team in July. That puts him on the same timeline as a possible NBA return. If he was gonna be ready then, why not be on the court for your NBA team? If the NBA regular season is over and the seeding is set, then the Nets could face the Raptors. Now, I predicted with the healthy KD and Kyrie, the Nets could upset the Raptors. Even if I'm wrong, that's like 5 to 6 games that Kevin Durant could play, and 5+ games super valuable for a guy who hasn't played ball in over a year. The NBA is also tossing around the idea of starting next year around Christmas. Do you really think it's a good idea for a guy at 31 years old to take off a year and a half of competitive basketball in his prime? Hell no. Kevin Durant has no idea how many more chances he has to add to his legacy, and he cannot afford to waste this one, especially when fate is basically setting up his return perfectly. Another argument against his return is even if the Nets won, which is kind of ridiculous, this would be an asterisk title anyway. I don't think any serious basketball fans will not honor whoever's named champion this season. Every single team will have to play under the same conditions. They'll most likely have to live in a hotel for months, play in small arenas without fans, have no home court advantage, and maybe win a shortened series like best of 5. Whoever overcomes all that will be a worthy and unique champion, not an asterisk. We have all seen the video of KD playing pickup, running, dunking. The decision is ultimately up to him, and he should absolutely choose to come back. And if he does, the NBA suspension helps the Nets big time. The second team this helps is the Houston Rockets. James Harden has had the reputation for years of being a playoff choker, in part because he takes the regular season so seriously. It is normal for the beard to drop like 40 or 50 on any given night. He's normally one of the league leaders in usage rate and minutes played. People see a different James Harden in the playoffs and they say, oh, that's regular season fatigue. This year he's got another star to take off some of that load, but Russell Westbrook is another guy who goes full speed during the regular season. There is no doubt a mini offseason helps both of those guys recharge. Houston traded Clint Capella around the deadline to help space the floor for Russell Westbrook and go all in on small ball. It worked for a while. The same people who laughed at what the Rockets were trying to do admitted they were wrong when they came out and beat the Lakers and won 7 of 9 games. Then it slowed down a bit. The Rockets lost their next 4 games, including to average and below average teams like the Knicks, the Magic, and the Hornets, in part because they were tired. I mean, you think James Harden plays a lot of minutes. He does. So does PJ Tucker. In fact, Harden and Tucker are the only guys in their 30s who are top 10 in minutes. Tucker's minutes are tough too. Dude's got to guard opposing 5s every other night. If the season starts again, the Rockets' front court would be refreshed, and they could take the Nuggets by surprise with micro ball. There are nagging injuries to a guy like Eric Gordon, who will definitely be helped by an extended recovery time. But again, every team has that kind of situation. The Rockets have multiple benefits to a suspended season. The third team this helps is the Philadelphia 76ers. The health thing is a major factor for Philly because one of their best players was injured. Ben Simmons hurt his back on February 22nd. At the time, he said he had no idea when he'd be able to come back. GM Elton Brand, though, recently said, at this point, whenever the season starts, Ben will be ready to go. Almost as important to the Sixers is this idea of playing the postseason in a bubble. There are several plans of how they can safely get the playoffs back on, and no one knows a whole lot, but one thing everyone pretty much knows is fans will not be involved. The Sixers were famously awful on the road this year. They had a 29-2 home record, 10-24 on the road. The same record as the Knicks on the road. The Timberwolves had more wins away from home. It'll be really interesting to see how playing games at a neutral site affects Philly. Most people agree that the Sixers are a sleeping giant, a roster with the talent to upset anybody at any time, but what can unlock it? Will playing no games on the road, but none at home make that difference? We don't know, but that factor could play into the Sixers' hands more than any other team. The first team the NBA suspension is bad for is the LA Clippers. The Clips were taken this season in phases. They started out without Paul George. Kawhi Leonard was sitting out more games. Eventually the two played together, but not every time. By the time the season hit pause, the Clippers had momentum. They had won 7 of 8 games, including a 6-game winning streak, beating teams like the Nuggets and the Rockets. Kawhi had played 11 games in a row. PG played 8 straight. Those two had built some chemistry too toward the end of the season. The only team that had beat the Clippers at full strength, a super motivated Lakers team. It's almost like the Clippers' brain trust got together before the season and they looked at their players and their health and they planned everything out in phases. And if they did, the plan worked perfectly. Their most important players were healthy and winning, and then everything stopped. The Clippers are hurt big time by the season suspension because they have to build back that chemistry again. They aren't a team that's used to playing together from years of experience. They had major pieces just thrown together trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Yeah, Lou Williams and Patrick Beverley were nursing injuries, and that does help to have them back healthy. But the Clippers look like the NBA's best team before the suspension, and the pause really hurts that. The next team this hurts is the LA Lakers. Everyone's instinct when the season was suspended was, oh, this will help the Lakers. LeBron James, 35 years old, in his 17th season. It'll be good for him to get rest before the playoffs. He was quick to point out it's just the opposite. LeBron basically said at his age, it's a big deal to get into playoff shape. In his early 20s, his body would respond a lot quicker, and that's why LeBron led the charge for at least a month of training camp before they restart the season. He's gonna need it.
1.5, 2 weeks of a little mini training camp and then 5 to 10 games.
Ooh. Wow.
And to get ready for the playoffs. Like,
oh, right.
Because, I mean, if we're just talking about if we're talking about like finishing the regular season, then you don't need that much. You could do a week of training camp and then get back into it. So by then, but, when you've been building 6 months of conditioning.
Like the Clippers, LeBron was ramping himself up with an eye on the playoffs. Since the All-Star break, LeBron averaged 30 points on over 55% shooting, over 9 assists, and 8 boards per game. He led the Lakers to huge wins over the Milwaukee Bucks and the Clippers. All that momentum came to a screeching halt. Every year people say the All-Star break comes at the wrong time for some teams. That's because sometimes a team is rolling before the break, resets, and looks completely different after. The Lakers better hope that doesn't apply to them. They had just found a rhythm before the suspension, and they'll have to find it again. People might look back at this year and say the Lakers and LeBron were robbed of a title by fate. Either way, if the suspension does hurt the Lakers and LeBron that much, no one's gonna have sympathy when they look back at LeBron's legacy. It's hard to say if this hurts or helps the Milwaukee Bucks in a big way either way. I mean, yeah, they were rolling, so it kind of hurts, but Giannis had that minor knee injury, so it kind of helps. If anything, it really helps them indirectly, because if the suspension does affect the Lakers and Clippers that much, the Bucks could be champions after all. Support AM Hoops and click subscribe. Don't miss a daily NBA video.